Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish. Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Sam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravadikacharya Sutaratasi Simad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Gam BBT Founder Charge His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravadikacharya Sutaratasi Simad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananti Kori Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Zagaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Maya Purnamati Dham Ki Jai. Tamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Sri Mati Tosi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Mati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Mahamahotsaha, the holy appearance day of Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Janmastami Ki Jai, Gaura Premananda Haribo. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Haribol. Happy Janmastami. So, we're going to read today from the Krishna book. I'm going to read a little bit more than normal today because I wanted to read about the advent of Krishna and then, of course, the birth of Lord Krishna. So it's a little lengthy. If you have something that you need to do or go somewhere, then feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can stay here with us. So thank you very much for coming. This is a very auspicious day. This is one of my favorite days because before I came to Krishna consciousness, this is the first book that I received, was the Krishna book. And I always remember the Krishna book in that sense. And also, it kind of reminded me of the early days of Krishna consciousness and how wonderful and beautiful it was. Even before joining Krishna consciousness, I didn't realize that everyone, I'm sure by now, knows that famous song, My Sweet Lord, by George Harrison. He did write a foreword here, by the way, and it was very, very sweet. So that particular song, I remember when I didn't have any idea about Krishna consciousness or devotees or anything. I remember my friends and I, every time that song would come on, we'd stick our head out the door, out the window as we're driving down the street, and we'd be yelling out Krishna. And I had no idea what Krishna was or who he was or what was going on. But it just kind of gives you the idea, the potency of the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, knowingly or unknowingly, if we chant the holy name. And I thought about that a little bit more, and I realized that we were chanting it not offensively. We were unoffensively chanting the Krishna name, my friends and I, sticking our head out the window. Hare Krishna, looking like pretty much foolish, but the point by making is that you can just see by coming in contact with some aspect, some part of Krishna consciousness, and not being envious of Krishna while this chanting and hearing goes on, that one can actually become a Krishna conscious devotee. So years later, when I was a couple of years older, I remember my brother and I, my older brother Vyapi, we were walking down the street in Denver, Colorado. And wouldn't you know it, out of the blue, this devotee came and he shoved the Krishna book in my hand. And he said, "You got to read this." And I had no idea what it was. I didn't even remember that I was chanting Krishna's name, in fact. It goes to show you the deep ignorance that one is in the material world. You can't remember anything. So he shoved the book in our hand, and then as soon as he opened up the foreword by George Harrison, then I remembered what we were doing. I recall we used to chant My Sweet Lord for hours at a time. And it was a very popular song. It was top 10, I believe, or something like that. So it was on the radio regularly. Anywhere you went, you could hear it all over. You remember that, right? Yeah. It was just, insurmountable. You couldn't miss it. And then you're receiving this book, and then I thought, oh my God, this is unreal. So we could see the potency of the Krishna conscious movement and how important it is for us to distribute these literatures, especially the Krishna book. Then we should read the Krishna book. I have to admit, I don't read the Krishna book very often. I have to admit that. Just in the course of life in the Krishna conscious movement, you can get very, very busy. And by 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, your eyes get very heavy and you want to take rest. And as you get older, it becomes like that, more and more realistic. But it's good that we have such a wonderful occasion as Janmastami. We can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, yes, I wanted to read about the advent of Krishna. A couple of things previous to that. We say that, Krishna, he's reminding us constantly, like he reminded myself about who he is and what we're supposed to be doing. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham Svavasa Pabhavo Mata Sarva Pavartate, that, in the whole point of what we're doing is to remember Krishna, and we have to understand who he is. And so when we're reading these pastimes here, that's going to become very prevalent. We understand that Krishna, he's the source of all the worlds, the three worlds. So we'll learn more about that as we read in the Krishna book here. And he says that the wise who know this perfectly will engage in my service. This is what's really important, that we hear the pastimes of Krishna and that we serve him, that we associate with him by that process of service. And Janmastami is a perfect day to get into that service attitude of serving Krishna to some capacity with love and devotion. This is very, very important. And Krishna says, Vasudeva Vasudeva Sarvam iti sammahatmastu durlabha. Krishna also says that he's the cause of all causes. So many causes are there, but he's the cause of all causes. So he's also the cause of us being able to come and serve his lotus feet. And if we understand that and we execute that understanding, that idea, we become liberated. It says that hearing the pastimes of Krishna is a very important factor for a liberated person. So even a liberated person, it's very important that that person, reads and studies the pastimes of Krishna. And it says also that those devotees who are trying to become liberated, this is our position, we're trying to become liberated, but hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita is also essential. It's essential for us to hear these things, because if we understand that, the path becomes very clear. It's a very clear path when you read and hear the pastimes of Krishna and read the Bhagavad Gita. The path becomes, there's no any impropriety, there's no bog or anything. Everything's dispelled and revealed. So the Krishna book is that potent because it gives us the whole philosophy within the Krishna book, especially in the advent of Krishna. Lots of things are spoken there. And then in the birth of Lord Krishna, we see Vasudeva. He dispels any misunderstandings about Krishna, and he tells us who Krishna actually is. And he's the father of Krishna. It's like that. So it's very important. And as we go on, we'll understand more and more. Atata Brahma Jignasa. Yes, Krishna is the supreme. We'll understand that more and more as we read. And that Krishna is the supreme person, the supreme originator of everything. These things are really expelled here very, very nicely in the Krishna book. So, also when reading, Krishna, he describes his position. He said, Vedaham samatitani. Krishna knows everything. There's nothing that Krishna doesn't know. And this was also in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, he's speaking to Arjuna. And he's speaking to Arjuna in such a way that why he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. And on that battlefield, Arjuna saw all the two forces there and became very disheartened. And he didn't want to fight. But Krishna said that, no, you have to fight. But still Arjuna put up a good fight. In fact, when Krishna mentioned to Arjuna that he had spoken this philosophy previously, and when he did, the sun god was there, but you were there also. But then Arjuna, when he heard that, he didn't really understand it. He didn't really like it, in fact. He was actually a little bit irritated. And he challenged Krishna. He said, why? How am I supposed to believe this? How can I believe this? And then Krishna expels that fog in his brain by saying that many, many times you and I have been here with the sun god, and I'm speaking to you the Bhagavad Gita. The difference is that I remember, but you have forgotten. You don't remember. And that's our position also. We've forgotten. This isn't the only time we've been in this material world. We've been in this material world for countless and countless of years. Somehow or other involved in this whole mirror of the Maya, of this material existence. So this is the greatness of Krishna. He doesn't forget. He knows everything about us, every inch of what we are. Krishna knows everything. And that is the greatness of Krishna. And that shows you how minute we really are. We forget everything. I'm at that age now where I forget a lot of things. Somebody can tell me something and literally, it could be a minute and a half and I forgot what they said. And sometimes I see people, devotees, they come up to me and say, Hare Krishna Svavasa, and I'm looking at them right in their face, but I can't remember who they were. You really can't remember their name. You see their face, you go, oh yeah. So you can see how forgetful we are, how easy that is. What to speak of this multitude of births and deaths that we've gone through. But Krishna, he knows everything. So, on that principle, we should surrender to Krishna. Just on that principle itself, because he knows. He's been there with us. And on that principle alone, we should serve and surrender to Krishna. Just because he knows that we don't know. So, we can voluntarily agree to be controlled by Krishna. You could say, okay, it's like Arjuna. He voluntarily surrendered to Krishna on the battlefield. He said, okay, that's enough, I remember. I accept your statement. So he surrendered to Krishna right there on the spot. So this is our position. We have to see how we can surrender to Krishna. And by hearing the glories of Krishna and the pastimes of Krishna, it gives us that strength, that courage. Because if we're controlled by Krishna, then voluntarily, if we voluntarily say, okay, Krishna, I want you to control me, Prabhupada describes that as being pure devotional service. That's pure devotional service. by saying, Krishna, I surrender. You can control me. That's a big step for anyone to make. But that is the step. Because if we don't say that, and we don't let Krishna control our life, then the only alternative is that Maya controls our life. So it's one or the other. Either you're controlled by Krishna, or you're controlled by Maya. It's one or the other. And we can see this idea of Maya is very, very amazing. Because, from that point, you can actually go through so many different births and deaths. Whereas if you surrender to Krishna, you let Krishna control you, then this will be your last life. You'll go back to Godhead. So it is about control. And that is the real question for all of us in this material world. Do we actually want to surrender to Krishna? Do we want to be controlled by Krishna? Because really, in the material world, we all want to be the controllers. That is the difficulty. And that's a big step for anyone to make, to say, no, I don't want to be in control. So here we are, we're in the material world. We're enjoying freely. Everybody can do whatever they feel like it. Even Arjuna was told that by Krishna. He said, I've told you everything, now it's up to you. Do as you like. Whatever you like, okay, you just do. And so Arjuna, he chose to be the servant of Krishna. And when we celebrate these wonderful days like the birth of Lord Krishna, these are the kind of things that we should be looking at. Can I make a vow today on Krishna's birthday that let me be controlled by you, Lord Krishna, or Shishi Rukmini Dwarkadish? Let me be controlled by you. And that means that we'll become a pure devotee just by that desire. That's the power. But it's not very easy. It's easy to say, of course. Bhoga means control. Bhoga means, non-sanctified food, but bhoga also means control. So bhogavansha means that we actually are subjected to the conditions of the material world because we want to be masters. So bhogavansha means that we're thinking, I'm the control, I'm the master, I'm going to make my life the way I want it. But in reality, it never happens that way. It's just not the nature of this material world. We're here because we were somehow or other sinful living entities, and we got this particular body. And so today is a very good day to just kind of resonate on our position of who we are, what we're doing. Can I give myself to Krishna? It's like if you want to give Krishna a present, give him yourself. And say to Krishna, I'm yours. You control me. So, as long as we're bhogavansha, as long as we think we're in control, then that means that we're going to be going through a lot of birth and death over and over and over again. And it's so simplistic in reality. This is not a complicated situation. It's very simplistic. But maybe today is a good day to think about that in our life. How can I come closer to Krishna? How can I surrender to Krishna more? And this is a very auspicious day, for all of us to come to that kind of an understanding. The material world itself is very dangerous. It's always been that way, and it's always going to be dangerous. Padam padam yad vipadam. That, at every step there's danger. There's some calamity at every step. We can be here, the next minute you can go outside, and we can experience some bad situation, or even see something like that. But if we take shelter of Krishna, Murari, Krishna Murari, yes. If we take shelter of Krishna Murari's lotus feet, it says that we can cross over the ocean. There's an ocean of material birth and death. We can cross over that by surrendering to Krishna Murari. And if we do surrender to Krishna Murari and we take shelter of his lotus feet, it's described that although it's a big ocean, it can become Vasta Padam. Vasta Padam means that the ocean's very big, but if we surrender to Krishna, that we can actually take this ocean of birth and death, and it can go down into the size of a hoof print of a calf. And if it's at the size of hoof print of a calf, it means you can cross over it that easy. Otherwise, it's insurmountable. It's beyond our comprehension. But just surrendering to Krishna, that ocean of birth and death can become minimized, become very small, and we can just step right over it. That's Krishna consciousness. That's the power of Krishna consciousness. And not only that, but at the same time, we'll understand how this Krishna conscious movement is the greatest humanitarian welfare activity in this material world. It's the greatest. There's nothing greater than the Krishna consciousness welfare activity. And when I say that, I mean we have the opportunity to get people back home, back to Godhead. It's up to us if we want to be part of that. Like everybody's always thinking about doing welfare work, something to do, help somebody. But the greatest welfare work that you can possibly do in this lifetime is to give someone Krishna consciousness. That's the best thing we can do. And if you do that, then you can help them become freed from this bhogavancha, this illusion of wanting to be in power. And you can help that individual become freed from this ocean of birth and death, which is insurmountable. So this is a beautiful day to think about that, to become absorbed in that, and to remember that even if one is a liberated soul or a non-liberated soul, to hear the pastimes of Krishna are essential. It's vastly important for us to do that. So we're going to read a little today. And sometimes reading gets kind of monotonous, you might say. So please bear with me. We're going to try to read very fast and very nice. And in between, we may say a few things, but not too much. So, I'm thinking that verse. Ogaishvaya prashaktanam tiaprita chesam yasamika buddhi samadhanad vidiyate. In the minds of those who are too much attached, right? To sense enjoyment. Yeah, too much attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence. This creates a lot of bewilderment. And from that bewilderment, it's very difficult to surrender to Krishna. It takes away that determination. So when we read about Krishna today, it should relieve us a little bit in this anxiety of wanting to be in control and one less attached. When we hear these transcendental vibrations, we become less attached to wanting to be part of the material world and more attached to serving Krishna and his lotus feet. Then we see that Krishna comes yada yada hi dharma shagnani bhavati bharata vyuttana madharma sata dhammanam shijamyaham. Whenever or wherever, there's this problem, decline in religious practice, people become atheistic, and a predominant rise of irreligion. That's when Krishna comes. So Krishna comes in various ways like this, but Krishna also comes to this material world by the holy name, the chanting of Hare Krishna. And we see that with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his movement. He gave us this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that Maha Mantra is extremely powerful for liberation from this material world today. Okay? All right. We'll try to sit here and read a little bit about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. This is the advent of Lord Krishna. Once, the world was overburdened by the unnecessary defense force of different kings, who were actually demons, but were posing themselves as a royal order. At that time, the whole world became perturbed, and the predominating deity of the earth, known as Bhumi, went to see Lord Brahma to tell of her calamities due to the dominant kings. Bhumi assumed the shape of a cow and presented herself before Lord Brahma. Okay, it's on the board. Okay, good. With tears in her eyes, she was bereaved and was weeping just to invoke the Lord's compassion. She related the calamitous position of the earth, and after hearing this, Lord Brahma became much aggrieved, and he at once started, excuse me, Lord Brahma became much aggrieved, and he at once started for the ocean of milk, where Lord Vishnu resides. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the demigods, headed by Lord Shiva, and Bhumi also followed. Arriving on the shore of the milk ocean, Lord Brahma began to pacify the Lord Vishnu, who formerly saved the earthly planet by assuming the transcendental form of a boar. The Vedic mantras in the Vedic mantras, there is a particular type of prayer called Purusha Shukta. Generally, the demigods offer their obeisances unto Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by chanting the Purusha Shukta. It is understood herein that the predominating deity of every planet can see the Supreme Lord of the universe, of this universe. Brahma, whenever there is some disturbance in his planet, and Brahma can approach the Supreme Lord Vishnu, not by seeing him directly, but by standing on the shore of the ocean of milk. There is a planet within this universe called Svetadvip, and on that planet there is an ocean of milk. It is understood from various Vedic literatures that just as there is the ocean of salt water within this planet, there are various kinds of oceans in other planets. Somewhere there is an ocean of milk, somewhere there is an ocean of oil, and somewhere there is an ocean of liquor, and many other types of oceans. Purusha Shukta is the standard prayer which the demigods recite to appease the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Because he is lying on the ocean of milk, he is called Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through whom all the incarnations within this universe appear. After all the demigods offered the Purusha Shukta prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they apparently heard no response. Then Lord Brahma personally sat in meditation, and there was a message transmission from Lord Vishnu to Brahma. Brahma then broadcast a message to the demigods. That is a system of receiving Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge is received first by Brahma from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the heart. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Rida. The transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was transmitted to Lord Brahma through the heart. Here also, in the same way, only Brahma could understand the message transmitted by Lord Vishnu, and he broadcast it to the demigods for their immediate action. The message was, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will appear on the earth very soon, along with his supreme powerful potencies, and as long as he remains on the earth planet to execute his mission of annihilating the demons and establishing the devotees, the demigods should also remain there to assist him. They should all immediately take birth in the family of the Yadu dynasty, wherein the Lord will also appear in due course of time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, personally appeared as the son of Vasudeva. Before he appeared, all the demigods along with their wives appeared in different pious families in the world just to assist the Lord in executing his mission. The exact word used here is tat priyartam, which means the demigods should appear on the earth in order to please the Lord. In other words, any living entity who lives only to satisfy the Lord is a demigod. The demigods were further informed that the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, Ananta, who has maintained the universal planets by extending his millions of hoods, would also appear on earth before Lord Krishna's appearance. They were also informed that the eternal potency of Vishnu, or Maya, with whom all the conditioned souls are enamored, would also appear just to execute the purpose of the Supreme Lord. After instructing and pacifying all the demigods as well as Bhumi. With sweet words, Lord Brahma, the father of all Prajapatis, or progenitors of universal population, departed for his own abode, the highest material planet called Brahmaloka. Yeah. The leader of Yadustani, King Surasena, was ruling over the country known as Mathura, the district of Mathura, as well as the district known as Surasena. On account of the rule of King Surasena, Mathura became the capital city of all the kings of the Yadus. Mathura was also made the capital of the kings of the Yadu dynasty because the Yadus were a very pious family and knew that Mathura is a place where Lord Sri Krishna lives eternally, just as he also lives in Dwarka. Jai. Dwarkadam ki jai. Once upon a time, Vasudeva, the son of Surasena, just after marrying Devaki, was going home on his chariot with his newly wedded wife. The father of Devaki, known as Devaka, had contributed a sufficient dowry because he was very affectionate toward his daughter. He had contributed hundreds of chariots completely decorated with gold equipment. At that time, Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, in order to please his sister Devaki, had voluntarily taken the reins of the horses of Vasudeva's chariot and was driving. According to the custom of the Vedic civilization, when a girl is married, the brother takes the sister and brother-in-law to their home because the newly married girl may feel too much separation from her father's family. The brother goes with her until she reaches her father-in-law's house. The full dowry contributed by Devaka was as follows: 400 elephants fully decorated with golden garlands, 15,000 decorated horses, and 1,800 chariots. He also arranged for 200 beautiful girls to follow his daughter. The Kshatriya system of marriage, still current in India, dictates that when a Kshatriya is married, a few dozen of the bride's young girlfriends, in addition to the bride, go to the house of the king. The followers of the queen are called maidservants, but actually they act as friends of the queen. This practice is prevalent from time immemorial, traceable at least to the time before the advent of Lord Krishna, 5,000 years ago. So Vasudeva brought home another 200 beautiful girls along with his wife. While the bride and the bridegroom were passing along on the chariot, there were different kinds of musical instruments playing to indicate the auspicious moment. There were conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums. Combined together, they were vibrating a nice concert. The procession was passing very pleasingly, and Kamsa was driving the chariot, when suddenly there was a miraculous sound vibrated from the sky, which especially announced to Kamsa, "Kamsa, you are a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and your brother-in-law, but you do not know that the 8th child of this sister will kill you." Kamsa was the son of Ugrasena of the Bhoga dynasty. It is said that Kamsa was the most demoniac of all the Bhoga dynasty kings. Immediately after hearing the prophecy from the sky, he caught hold of Devaki's hair and was just about to kill her with his sword. Vasudeva was astonished at Kamsa's behavior, and in order to pacify the cruel, shameless brother-in-law, he began to speak as follows with great reason and evidence. He said, "My dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the most famous king of the Bhoja dynasty, and people know that you are the greatest warrior and a valiant king. How is it that you are so infuriated that you are prepared to kill a woman who is your own sister at this auspicious time of her marriage? Why should you be so much afraid of death? Death is already born along with your birth. From the very day you took your birth, you began to die. Suppose you are 25 years old. That means you have already died 25 years. Every moment, every second you are dying. Why then should you be so afraid, much afraid of death? Final death is inevitable. You may die either today or in 100 years. You cannot avoid death. Why should you be so much afraid? Actually, death means annihilation of the present body. As soon as the present body stops functioning and mixes with the 5 elements of material nature, the living entity within the body accepts another body according to his present action and reaction. It is just as when a man walks on the street, he puts forward his foot, and when he is confident that his foot is situated on the sound ground, he lifts the other foot. In this way, one after another, the body changes and the soul transmigrates. See how the plant worms change from one twig to another so carefully. Similarly, the living entity changes his body as soon as the higher authorities decide on his next body. As long as the living entity is conditioned within this material world, he must take material bodies one after another. His next particular body is offered by the laws of nature, according to the actions and reactions of life. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dehi no shminyata dehe kamonam yovinajara tatahi dehantara praptira statya namuyati. Yes, same thing. The body is actually like one of the bodies which are always, the body is exactly like one of the bodies which we always see in dreams. During our dreams of sleep, we create so many bodies according to mental creation. We have seen gold and we have also seen a mountain. So in a dream, we can see a golden mountain by combining the two ideas. Sometimes in dreams, we see that we have a body which is flying in the sky. And at the same time, we completely forget our present body. Similarly, these bodies are changing. And when you have one body, you forget the past body. During a dream, we make contact with so many new kinds of bodies. But when we are awake, we forget them all. And actually, these material bodies are the creation of our mental activities. But at the present moment, we do not recollect our past bodies. The nature of the mind is flickering. Sometimes it accepts something, immediately it rejects the same thing. Accepting and rejecting is a process of the mind in contact with the 5 objects of sense gratification. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balavatitam tashyaham nigaham vanye vayor eva suduskaram. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and above all, it's very, very strong. And it's more difficult to control the mind than the wind. And I think all of us can attest to the difficult nature of the mind. Sometimes you become so angry, you may even want to kill somebody. That's the nature of the mind. It's so restless and so turbulent, obstinate, and people commit so many sinful activities and do so many wrong things in this material world because of this mind. And I think all of us, we can all attest to how powerful that mind is. Sometimes people come to Krishna consciousness and the mind becomes so restless and so strong and obstinate that one will even leave Krishna consciousness. They'll leave the association of devotees. And that brings tears to our eyes. But still, the mind is just so turbulent and they can't stop themselves. They have to do it. So you see that the only thing that can pacify the mind is the chanting of Hare Krishna. It's not that you can give the mind something else because it's restless. It won't be satisfied with some external activity. It'll only want more and more. And that's the nature of the mind and the senses of the body. So herein we're getting first-hand information of how important it is to control the mind, how important it is to chant very nicely the japa, how to follow the principles, how to associate with devotees, how to become more and more dedicated to the instruction of the spiritual master and taking on the position of being a real humble servant of the Supreme Lord. Very, very powerful. the only way that we can actually control the mind. Otherwise, almost impossible. So, we can continue that. I'll back up a little bit. Accepting and rejecting is a process of the mind in contact with the five objects of sense gratification: form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. In a speculative way, the mind comes in touch with the objects of sense gratification. And when the living entity desires a particular type of body, he gets it. Therefore, the body is an offering by the laws of nature, material nature. The living entity accepts the body and comes out again into the material world to enjoy or suffer according to the construction of the body. Unless we have a particular type of body, we cannot enjoy or suffer according to our mental proclivities inherited from the previous life. The particular type of body is actually offered to us according to our mental condition at the time of death. The luminous planets like the sun, moon, or the stars reflect themselves in different types of reservoirs, like water, oil, or ghee. The reflection moves according to the movement of the reservoir. The reflection of the moon is on the water, and the moving water makes the moon also appear to be moving, but actually the moon is not moving. Similarly, by mental concoction, the living entity attains different kinds of bodies, although actually he has no connection with such bodies. But on account of illusion, being enchanted by the influence of Maya, the living entity thinks that he belongs to a particular type of body. That is the way of conditioned life. Suppose a living entity is now in a human form of body. He thinks that he belongs to the human community, or a particular country, or a particular place. He identifies himself in that way and unnecessarily prepares for another body, which is not required by him. Such desires and mental concoctions are the cause of different types of body. The covering influence of material nature is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in whatever body he gets, and he identifies with that body with great pleasure. Therefore, I beg to request you not to be overwhelmed by the dictation of the mind and body. Vasudeva then requested Kamsa not to be envious of his newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear both in this world and in the next, when one is before Yamaraj, the Lord of punishment after death. Vasudeva appealed to Kamsa on behalf of Devaki, stating that she was his younger sister. He also appealed at an auspicious moment at the time of marriage. A younger sister or brother are supposed to be protected as one's children. The position is overall so delicate, Vasudeva reasoned, that if you kill her, it will go against your high reputation. Vasudeva tried to pacify Kamsa by good instruction as well as by philosophical discrimination. But Kamsa was not to be pacified because his association was demoniac. Because of his demoniac associations, he was always a demon, although born in a very high royal family. A demon never cares for any good instruction. He is just like a determined thief. One can give him moral instruction, but it will not be effective. Similarly, those who are demoniac or atheistic by nature can hardly assimilate any good instruction, however authorized it may be. That is the difference between demigod and demon. Those who can accept those who can accept good instruction and try to live their lives in that way are called demigods. And those who are unable to take good instruction are called demons. Failing in his attempt to pacify Kamsa, Vasudeva wondered how he would protect his wife Devaki. When there is imminent danger, an intelligent person should try to avoid the dangerous position as far as possible. But if, in spite of endeavoring by all intelligence, one fails to avoid the dangerous position, there is no fault on his part. One should try his best to execute his duties, but if the attempt fails, he's not at fault. Vasudeva thought of his wife as follows, quote, "For the present, let me save the life of Devaki. Then later on, if there are children, I shall see how to save them." He further thought, if in the future I get a child who can kill Kamsa, just as Kamsa is thinking, then both Devaki and the child will be saved because the law of providence is inconceivable. But now, some way or other, let me save the life of Devaki. There is no certainty how a living entity contacts a certain type of body, just as there is no certainty how the blazing fire comes in contact with a certain type of wood in the forest. When there is a forest fire, it is experienced that the blazing fire sometimes leaps over one tree and catches another by the influence of the wind. Similarly, a living entity may be very careful and fearful in the matter of executing his duties, but it is still very difficult for him to know what type of body he's going to get in his next life. Maharaj Bharat was very faithfully executing his duties of self-realization, but by chance he contacted temporary affection for a deer, and he had to accept his next life in the body of a deer. Vasudeva, after deliberating on how to save his wife, began to speak to Kamsa with great respect, although Kamsa was the most sinful man. Sometimes it happens that a most virtuous person like Vasudeva has to flatter a person like Kamsa, a most heinous person. That is the way of all diplomatic transactions. Although Vasudeva was deeply aggrieved, he presented himself outwardly as cheerful. He addressed the shameless Kamsa in that way because he was so atrocious. Vasudeva said to Kamsa, quote, "My dear brother-in-law, please consider that you have no danger from your sister. You are awaiting some danger because you have heard a prophetic voice in the sky. But the danger is to come from the sons of your sister, who are not present now. And who knows, there may or may not be sons in the future. Considering this, you are safe for the present, nor is there cause of fear from your sister. If there are any sons born of her, I promise that I shall present all of them to you for necessary action." Kamsa knew the value of Vasudeva's word of honor, and he was convinced by his argument. For the time being, he desired from the heinous killing of his sister. He desisted from the heinous killing of his sister. Thus Vasudeva was pleased and praised the decision of Kamsa. In this way, he returned to his home. After due course of time, Vasudeva and Devaki gave birth to 8 male children, as well as 1 daughter. When the first son was born, Vasudeva kept his word of honor and immediately brought the child before Kamsa. It is said that Vasudeva was very much elevated and famous for his word of honor, and he wanted to maintain this fame. Although it was very painful for Vasudeva to hand over the newly born child, Kamsa was very glad to receive him, but he became a little compassionate with the behavior of Vasudeva. This event is very exemplary for a great soul like Vasudeva. There is nothing considered to be painful in the course of discharging one's duty. A learned person like Vasudeva carries out his duties without hesitation. On the other hand, a demon like Kamsa never hesitates in committing any abominable action. It is said, therefore, that a saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions of life. A learned man can discharge his duties without awaiting favorable circumstances. A heinous person like Kamsa can act in any simple way, and a devotee can sacrifice everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kamsa became satisfied by the action of Vasudeva. He was surprised to see Vasudeva keeping his promise. And being compassionate upon him and pleased, he began to speak as follows. "My dear Vasudeva, you need not present this child to me. I am not in danger from this child. I have heard that the 8th child born of you and Devaki will kill me. Why should I accept this child unnecessarily? You can take him back." End of quote. When Vasudeva was returning home with his firstborn child, although he was pleased by the behavior of Kamsa, he could not believe in him because he knew that Kamsa was uncontrolled. An atheistic person cannot be firm in his word of honor. One cannot control the senses. One who cannot control the senses cannot be steady in his determination. The great politician Chanika Pandit said, "Never put your trust in a diplomat or in a woman. Those who are addicted to unrestricted sense gratification can never be truthful, nor can they be trusted with any faith." At that time, the great sage Narada came to Kamsa. He was informed of Kamsa's becoming compassionate to Vasudeva and returning his firstborn child. Narada was very anxious to accelerate the descent of Lord Krishna as soon as possible. He therefore informed Kamsa that personalities like Nanda Maharaj and all the cowherd men and girls and wives of the cowherd men in Vrindavan, and on the other side, Vasudeva, his father, Surasena, and all the relatives born in the family of Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty were preparing for the appearance of the Lord. Narada warned Kamsa, "Be careful of the friends and well-wishers and all the demigods taking birth in those families." Kamsa and his friends and advisors were all demons. Demons are always afraid of demigods. After being thus informed by Narada about the appearance of the demigods in different families, Kamsa at once became alert. He understood that since the demigods had already appeared, Lord Vishnu must be coming soon. He at once arrested both his brother-in-law Vasudeva and Devaki and put them behind prison bars. Within the prison, shackled in iron chains, Vasudeva and Devaki gave birth to a male child year after year. And Kamsa, thinking each of the babies to be the incarnation of Vishnu, killed them with one after another. He was particularly afraid of the 8th child. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Sorry. Can you hear this? Sorry. Okay. But after being thus informed by Narada about the appearance of the demigods in different families, Kamsa at once became alert. He understood that since the demigods had already appeared, Lord Vishnu must be coming soon. He at once arrested both his brother-in-law Vasudeva and Devaki and put them behind prison bars. Within the prison, shackled in iron chains, Vasudeva and Devaki, I read that, right? Didn't I? Sorry. Okay, sorry. He was particularly afraid of the 8th child, but after the visit of Narada, he came to the conclusion that any child might be Krishna. Therefore, it was better to kill all the babies who took birth of Devaki and Vasudeva. This action of Kamsa is not very difficult to understand. There are many instances in the history of the world of persons in the royal order who have killed father, brother, or whole family and friends for the satisfaction of their ambitions. There is nothing astonishing about this, for the demoniac can kill anyone for their nefarious ambitions. Kamsa was made aware of his previous birth by the grace of Narada. He learned that in his previous birth he was a demon of the name Kalanemi, and that he was killed by Vishnu. Having taken his birth in the Bhoja family, he decided to become the deadly enemy of the Yadu dynasty. Krishna was going to take birth in that family, and Kamsa was very much afraid that he would be killed by Krishna, just as he was killed in his last birth. He first of all imprisoned his father Ugrasena because he was the chief king amongst the Yadu, Bhoja, and Andaka dynasties. And he also occupied the kingdom of Surasena, Vasudeva's father. He declared himself the king of all such places. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the first chapter of Krishna, Advent of Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we're just going to read one more. If somebody has to leave, no problem, I understand. But I want to read the birth of Lord Krishna next. So in this whole conversation, we see that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Namam duskrityana mudha papajate naradama maya pita jnana asurim bhava masrita. The miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and partake of atheistic nature of demons, don't surrender to Krishna. So this whole point here was that Kamsa and his cohorts, they were demoniac, and so their only desire was to kill Krishna. And we see even in the world today, this is going on, because really you see so many people that are demoniac and who have no desire to hear about Krishna, and they want to kill Krishna in terms of the philosophy, the understanding, and who Krishna is. They don't really want to hear. But you see that it's preordained. Krishna took birth, and Krishna is going to become famous. Just like if you take a look at India today, they say India is going to be the greatest power of the world in a matter of a decade, the next 10 years. And how amazing that's going to be, because the Krishna conscious movement is huge in India. They have so many connections with the leadership of the country, and they come to so many programs with the devotees. So somehow or other, this will happen where Krishna consciousness will actually become very prominent. Maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe in some of your lifetimes. The Krishna conscious movement will become very, very prominent in the world, without a doubt. And this is predicted. So we see that as long as we maintain our Krishna conscious life, and we maintain the preaching of Krishna consciousness, that Prabhupada will be satisfied, Krishna will be satisfied, and there'll be a future. I'm thinking of that verse. Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanyas tasmi tatbeta tatoman tatbeto gyapa vishatet anantaram. It's stated in that particular verse that Krishna, he can be understood only by bhakti, by devotional service. This is the real ingredient to move forward in our Krishna conscious life. We have to become involved in this bhakti yoga, devotional service. And when one becomes fully conscious of Krishna by such service, one can enter into the kingdom of God. This is the potency of the Krishna conscious movement. And there's no discrimination. Anyone can come close to Krishna just by the process of chanting Hare Krishna. And by serving Krishna, offering Krishna wonderful foodstuffs today. There's so many things that are going to be offered to Krishna. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya priyachati. That a person who gives Krishna a little bit of water, some fruit, with love and devotion. That's the principle. By this love and devotion, when we offer something to Krishna, that is the qualification for satisfying Krishna. So today's a wonderful day to do something of that caliber, to actually serve Krishna by giving him some foodstuffs with a lot of love and devotion. Okay, we'll continue. Not too many pages on this part. We'll try to go very quickly. Okay, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his appearance, birth, and activities are all transcendental, and one who understands them factually becomes immediately eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord's appearance or birth is not like that of an ordinary man, who is forced to accept a material body according to his past deeds. The Lord's appearance is explained in the second chapter. He appears out of his own sweet pleasure. When the time was mature for the appearance of the Lord, the constellations became very auspicious. The astrological influence of the star known as Rohini was also predominant, because this star is considered to be very auspicious. Rohini is under the direct supervision of Brahma. According to the astrological conclusion, besides the proper situation of the stars, there are auspicious and inauspicious moments due to the different situations of the different planetary systems. At that time of Krishna's birth, the planetary systems were automatically adjusted so that everything became auspicious. At that time, in all directions, east, west, south, north, everywhere, there was an atmosphere of peace and prosperity. There were auspicious stars visible in the sky and on the surface in all towns and villages of pasturing grounds, and within the minds of everyone, there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were flowing full of waters, and lakes were beautifully decorated with lotus flowers. The forests were full with beautiful birds and peacocks. All the birds within the forest began to sing with sweet voices, and the peacocks began to dance along with their consorts. The wind blew very pleasantly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, and the sensation of bodily touch was very pleasing. At home, the brahmanas, who were accustomed to offer sacrifices in the fire, found their homes very pleasant for offerings. Due to disturbances created by the demoniac kings, the sacrificial fire altar had been almost stopped in the houses of brahmanas. But now they could find find the opportunity to start the fire peacefully. Being forbidden to offer sacrifices, the brahmanas were very distressed in mind, intelligence, and activities. But just on the point of Krishna's appearance, automatically their minds became full of joy, because they could hear loud vibrations in the sky of transcendental sounds, proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The denizens of the Gandharva and Kanara planets began to sing, and the denizens of Siddhaloka and the planets of the Charanas began to offer prayers in the service of the Personality of Godhead. In the heavenly planets, the angels, along with their wives, accompanied by the Apsaras, began to dance. The great sages and the demigods, being pleased, began to shower flowers. At the seashore, there was the sound of mild waves, and above the sea, there were clouds in the sky which began to thunder very pleasingly. When things were adjusted like this, Lord Vishnu, who is residing within the heart of every living entity, appeared in the darkness of night as the Supreme Personality of Godhead before Devaki, who also appeared as one of the demigoddesses. The appearance of Lord Vishnu at that time could be compared with the full moon in the sky as it rises on the eastern horizon. The objection may be raised that since Lord Krishna appeared on the 8th day of the waning moon, there could be no rising of the full moon. In answer to this, it may be said that Lord Krishna appeared in the dynasty which is in the hierarchy of the moon. Therefore, although the moon was incomplete on that night because of the Lord's appearance, in the dynasty wherein the moon is himself, the original person, the moon was in an overjoyous condition. So by the grace of Krishna, he could appear just as a full moon. In an astronomical treatise by the name Kamanikya, the constellations at the time of the appearance of Lord Krishna are very nicely described. It is confirmed that the child born at the auspicious moment was the Supreme Brahman, or the Absolute Truth. Vasudeva saw that wonderful child born as a baby with 4 hands holding conch shell, club disc, and lotus flower, decorated with the mark of Svavasa, wearing the jeweled necklace of Kaustuba stone, dressed in yellow silk, appearing dazzling like a bright blackish cloud, wearing a helmet bedecked with the Vaidurya stone, valuable bracelets, earrings, and similar other ornaments all over his body, and an abundance of hair on his head. Due to the extraordinary features of the child, Vasudeva was struck with wonder. How could a newly born child be so decorated? He could therefore understand that Lord Krishna had now appeared. Okay. Let me read that again. He could therefore understand that Lord Krishna had now appeared, and that he became overpowered by the occasion. Vasudeva very humbly wondered that although he was an ordinary living entity conditioned by material nature and was extremely externally imprisoned by Kamsa, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Krishna, was appearing as a child in the home exactly in his original position. No earthly child is born with 4 hands, decorated with ornaments and nice clothing, fully equipped with all the signs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Over and over again, Vasudeva glanced at his child and he considered how to celebrate this auspicious moment. Generally, when a male child is born, he thought people observed the occasion with jubilant celebrations, and in my home, although I am imprisoned, the Supreme Personality of God has taken birth. How many millions of times should I be prepared to observe this auspicious ceremony? When Vasudeva, who is also called Anakadun Dubi, was looking at his newborn baby, he was so happy that he wanted to give many thousands of cows in charity to the Brahmanas. According to the Vedic system, whenever there is an auspicious ceremony in the Kshatriya king's palace, the king gives many things in charity. Cows decorated with golden ornaments are delivered to the Brahmanas and sages. Vasudeva wanted to perform a charitable ceremony to celebrate King Krishna's appearance, but because he was shackled within the walls of Kamsa's prison, this was not possible. Instead, within his mind, he gave thousands of cows to the Brahmanas. When Vasudeva was convinced that the newborn child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he bowed down with folded hands and began to offer him prayers. At that time, Vasudeva was in the transcendental position, and he became completely free from all fear of Kamsa. The newborn baby was also flashing his effulgence within the room in which he appeared. Vasudeva then began to offer his prayers. My dear Lord, I can understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul of all living entities, and the Absolute Truth. You have appeared in your own eternal form, which is directly perceived by us. I understand that because I am afraid of Kamsa, you have appeared just to deliver me from that fear. You do not belong to this material world. You are the same person who brings about the cosmic manifestation simply by glancing over material nature. One may argue that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who creates the whole cosmic manifestation simply by his glance, cannot come within the womb of Devaki, the wife of Vasudeva. To eradicate this argument, Vasudeva said, My dear Lord, it is not a very wonderful thing that you appear within the womb of Devaki, because the creation was also made in that way. You were lying in the causal ocean as Mahavishnu, and by your breathing process, innumerable universes came into existence. Then you entered into each of the universes as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Then again you expanded yourself as Kshirodakashayi Vishnu and entered into the hearts of all living entities and entered even within the atoms. Therefore, your entrance in the womb of Devaki is understandable in the same way. You appear to have entered, but you are simultaneously all-pervading. We can understand your entrance and non-entrance from material examples. The total material energy remains intact even after being divided into 16 elements. The material body is nothing but the combination of the 5 gross elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Whenever there is a material body, it appears that such elements are newly created, but actually the elements are always existing outside of the body. Similarly, although you appear as a child in the womb of Devaki, you are also existing outside. You are always in your abode, but still you can simultaneously expand yourself into millions of forms. One has to understand your appearance with great intelligence because the material energy is also emanating from you. You are the original source of the material energy, just as the sun is the source of the sunshine. The sunshine cannot cover the sun glow, nor can the material energy, being an emanation from you, cover you. You appear to be in the three modes of material energy, but actually the three modes of material energy cannot cover you. This is understood by the highly intellectual philosophers. In other words, although you appear to be within the material energy, you are never covered by it. We hear from the Vedic version that the Supreme Brahman exhibits his effulgence, and therefore everything becomes illuminated. We can understand from Brahma Samhita that the Brahma Jyoti, or the Brahman effulgence, emanates from the body of the Supreme Lord. And from the Brahman effulgence, all creation takes place. It is further stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is also the support of the Brahman effulgence. Originally, he is the root cause of everything. But persons who are less intelligent think that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes within this material world, he accepts the material qualities. Such conclusions are not very mature, but are made by the less intelligent. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is directly and indirectly existing everywhere. He is outside this material creation, and he is also within it. He is within this material creation not only as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he is also within the atom. Existence is due to his presence. Nothing can be separated from his existence. In the Vedic injunction, we find that the Supreme Soul, or the root cause of everything, has to be searched out, because nothing exists independent of the Supreme Soul. Therefore, the material manifestation is also a transformation of his potency. Both inert matter and the living force, soul, are emanations from him. Only the foolish conclude that when the Supreme Lord appears, he accepts the conditions of matter. Even if he appears to have accepted the material body, he is still not subjected to any material condition. Krishna has therefore appeared and defeated all imperfect conclusions about the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Lord, your appearance, existence, and disappearance are beyond the influence of the material qualities. Because your Lordship is the controller of everything and the resting place of the Supreme Brahman, there is nothing inconceivable or contradictory in you. As you have said, material nature works under your superintendence. It is just like government officers working under the orders of the chief executive. The influence of the subordinate activities cannot affect you. The Supreme Brahman and all phenomena are existing within you, and all the activities of material nature are controlled by your Lordship. You are called Shuklam. Shuklam, or whiteness, is the symbolic representation of the absolute truth because it is unaffected by the material qualities. Lord Brahma is called Rakta, or red, because Brahma represents the qualities of passion for creation. Darkness is entrusted to Lord Shiva because he annihilates the cosmos. The creation, annihilation, and maintenance of this cosmic manifestation is conducted by your potencies, yet you are always unaffected by those qualities. As confirmed in the Vedas, Harir hi nirguna shaksat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always free from all material qualities. It is also said that the qualities of passion and ignorance are non-existent in the person of the Supreme Lord. My Lord, you are the Supreme Controller, the Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Great, maintaining the order of this cosmic manifestation. And in spite of your being the Supreme Controller, you have so kindly appeared in my home. The purpose of your appearance is to kill the followers of the demoniac rulers of the world, who are in the dress of royal princes, but are actually demons. I am sure that you will kill all of them and their followers and soldiers. I understand that you have appeared to kill the uncivilized Kamsa and his followers, but knowing that you were to appear to kill him and his followers, he has already killed so many of your predecessors, elder brothers. Now he is simply awaiting the news of your birth. As soon as he hears about it, he will immediately appear with all kinds of weapons to kill you. Okay, 2.5 pages left. Thank you. After this prayer of Vasudeva, Devaki, the mother of Krishna, offered her prayers. She was very frightened because of her brother's atrocities. Devaki said, "My dear Lord, your eternal forms like Narayana, Lord Rama, Sesha, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Baladev, and millions of similar incarnations emanating from Vishnu are described in the Vedic literature as original. You are original because all your forms as incarnations are outside of this material creation. Your form was existing before this cosmic manifestation was created. Your forms are eternal and all-pervading. They are self-effulgent, changeless, and uncontaminated by the material qualities. Such eternal forms are ever cognizant and full of bliss. They are situated in transcendental goodness and are always engaged in different pastimes. You are not limited to a particular form only. All such transcendental eternal forms are self-sufficient. I can understand that you are the Supreme Lord Vishnu." After many millions of years, when Lord Brahma comes to the end of his life, the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation takes place. At that time, the 5 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, enter into the Mahatattva. The Mahatattva again enters by the force of time into the non-manifested total material energy. The total material energy enters into the energetic pradhana, and the pradhana enters into you. Therefore, after the annihilation of the whole cosmic manifestation, you alone remain with your transcendental name, form, quality, and paraphernalia. My Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the director of the unmanifested total energy and the ultimate reservoir of the material nature. My Lord, the whole cosmic manifestation is under the influence of time, beginning from the moment up to the duration of the year. All act under your direction. You are the original director of everything and the reservoir of all potent energies. Therefore, my Lord, I request you to save me from the cruel hands of the son of Ugrasena Kamsa. I am praying to your Lordship to please rescue me from this fearful condition, because you are always ready to give protection to your servitors. The Lord has confirmed this statement in the Bhagavad Gita by assuring Arjuna, "You may declare to the world, my devotee shall never be vanquished." End of quote. While thus praying to the Lord for rescue, Mother Devaki expressed her motherly affection. Quote, "I understand that this transcendental form is generally perceived in meditation by the great sages, but I am still afraid, because as soon as Kamsa understands that you have appeared, he might harm you. So I request that for the time being you become invisible to our material eyes." End quote. In other words, she requested the Lord to assume the form of an ordinary child. My only cause of fear from my brother Kamsa is due to your appearance. The Lord Madhusudana, Kamsa, my Lord, Madhusudana, Kamsa may know that you are already born. Therefore I request you to conceal this forearmed form of your Lordship, which holds the 4 symbols of Vishnu, namely the conch shell, the disc, the club, and the lotus flower. My dear Lord, at the end of the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation, you put the whole universe within your abdomen. Still, by your unalloyed mercy, you have appeared in my womb. I am surprised that you imitate the activities of ordinary human beings just to please your devotee. On hearing the prayers of Devaki, the Lord replied, "My dear mother, in the millennium of Swayambhuva Manu, my father Vasudeva was living as one of the Prajapatis, and his name at that time was Sutapa, and you were his wife named Prishni. At that time, when Lord Brahma was desiring to increase the population, he requested you to generate offspring. You controlled your senses and performed severe austerities. By practicing the breathing exercise of the yoga system, both you and your husband could tolerate all the influences of material laws, the rainy season, the onslaught of the wind, and the scorching heat of the sunshine. You also executed all religious principles. In this way, you were able to cleanse your heart and control the influence of material law. In executing your austerity, you used to eat only the leaves of the trees which fell to the ground. Then with steady mind and controlled sex drive, you worshipped me, desiring some wonderful benediction from me. Both of you practiced severe austerities for 12,000 years by the calculation of the demigods. During that time, your mind was always absorbed in me. When you were executing devotional service and always thinking of me within your heart, I was very much pleased with you, O sinless mother. Your heart is therefore always pure. At that time also I appeared before you in this form just to fulfill your desire, and I asked you to ask whatever you desired. At that time you wished to have me born as your son. Although you saw me personally, instead of asking for your complete liberation from the material bondage, under the influence of my energy, you asked me to become your son. In other words, the Lord selected his mother and father, namely Prishni and Sutapa, specifically to appear in the material world. Whenever the Lord comes as a human being, he must have someone as a mother and father. So he selected Prishni and Sutapa perpetually as his mother and father. And on account of this, both Prishni and Sutapa could not ask the Lord for liberation. Liberation is not so important as the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Lord could have awarded Prishni and Sutapa immediate liberation, but he preferred to keep them within this material world for his different appearances, as will be explained in the following verses. On receiving the benediction from the Lord to become his father and mother, both Prishni and Sutapa returned from the activities of austerity and lived as husband and wife in order to beget a child who was the Supreme Lord himself. In due course of time, Prishni became pregnant and gave birth to the child. The Lord spoke to Devaki and Vasudeva. At that time my name was Prishni Garbha. In the next millennium also you took birth as Aditi and Kasyapa, and I became your child of the name Upendra. At that time my form was just like a dwarf, and for this reason I am known as Vamana Dev. I gave you the benediction that I would take birth as your son 3 times. The first time I was known as Prishni Garbha, born of Prishni and Sutapa. The next birth I was Upendra, born of Aditi and Kasyapa. And now, for the 3rd time, I am born as Krishna from you, Devaki and Vasudeva. I appeared in this Vishnu form just to convince you that I am the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, again taking birth. I could have appeared just like an ordinary child, but in that way you would not believe that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, have taken birth in your womb. My dear father and mother, you have therefore raised me many times as your child, with great affection and love, and I am therefore very pleased and obliged to you. And I assure you that this time you shall go back home, back to Godhead. On account of your perfection in your mission, I know you are very concerned about me and afraid of Kamsa. Therefore, I order you to take me immediately to Gokula and replace me with the daughter who has just been born to Yasoda. Having spoken thus in the presence of his father and mother, the Lord turned himself into an ordinary child and remained silent. Being ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva attempted to take his son from the living room. And exactly at the time, a daughter was born of Nanda and Yasoda. She was Yogamaya, the internal potency of the Lord. By the influence of this internal potency, Yogamaya, all the residents of Kamsa's palace, especially the doorkeepers, were overwhelmed with deep sleep, and all the palace doors opened, although they were barred and shackled with iron chains. The night was very dark, but as soon as Vasudeva took Krishna on his lap and went out, he could see everything just as in sunlight. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that Krishna is just like sunlight, and wherever there is Krishna, the illusory energy, which is compared to darkness, cannot remain. When Vasudeva was carrying Krishna, the darkness of the night appeared. All the prison doors automatically opened. At the same time, there was a thunder in the sky and severe rainfall. While Vasudeva was carrying his son Krishna in the falling rain, Lord Sesha, in the shape of a serpent, spread his hood over the head of Vasudeva, so that he would not be hampered by the rainfall. Vasudeva came onto the bank of the Yamuna and saw that the water of the Yamuna was roaring with waves, and that the whole span was full of foam. Still, in that furious feature, the river gave passage to Vasudeva to cross, just as the great Indian Ocean gave a path to Lord Ram when he was bridging over the gulf. In this way, Vasudeva crossed the river Yamuna. On the other side, he went to the place of Nanda Maharaj, situated in Gokula, where he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. He took the opportunity of silently entering into the house of Yasoda, and without difficulty he replaced his son, taking away the baby girl newly born to the house of Yasoda, born in the house of Yasoda. Then, after entering the house very silently and exchanging the boy with the girl, he again returned to the prison of Kamsa and silently put the girl on the lap of Devaki. He again clamped the shackles on himself so that Kamsa could not recognize that so many things had happened. Mother Yasoda understood that a child was born of her, but because she was very tired from the labor of childbirth, she was fast asleep. When she awoke, she could not remember whether she had given birth to a male or female child. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 3rd chapter, Krishna, birth of Lord Krishna. Haribo! I didn't know if I was going to make it. I was thinking even before I was reading, I said, this is going to be really, really long. Are you sure you can do it? So thank you very much for staying through it. I really appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.